Okay, I'm excited to speak to Siva, and I want to make sure I get your last name right, Siva. I
Oh,
have Ramakrishnan.
yes, Ramakrishnan. Yes.
He's the executive director of statistical programming, innovation, and AI at Vitra Global Sciences. Welcome to an interview with Authority Magazine. It's nice to have you.
Thank you, Chad. Nice to
Here.
have me as well. Thank you. Appreciate
Good.
that.
You're welcome. So, do me a favor, just start us off. Give us a little background about you and where you came from in regards to your experience in this space with technology and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Right now, Chad, again, I'm executive director of statistical programming, innovations at AI at a company called Vitra Global Sciences. We provide statistical, services and biometric services to pharmaceutical companies, across the globe. I started my career about, 14-ish years ago, right? Um, at a place called Bristol Myers Squibb. I worked there as a consultant. And then I moved on to Novartis. I worked there for a couple of years collectively and moved on to a company called PPD, where I was a statistical programming lead and worked there for about 4 years and moved through the ranks to a company called PRA, right? Where I worked as a principal programmer for about 2 years, right? And then I wanted more. I wanted, not just as a technical programmer, I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to manage teams and directly work with clients, and which is where I started working for VGS. I started as a manager at 2020 and then moved through the ranks to a associate director, and then director, and then executive director right now, right? And as a background, I studied computer science. I did my master's in a university called Ball State University, and then I did my bachelor's in India at a place called SRM, technology. So I have that technical background, and to contribute, using that technical background in my working space is a nice place to be in.
How long have you been in the role that you're in now?
14 plus years, Chad.
Same role. Wow. And how many
I mean, not
people?
in the same role in this industry for 14 plus years, but in this role for about a year, right? I've been again progressing slowly through my career.
Okay. And how many people are on your team?
It's about 30 plus. It varies again, depending on the need of the clients. We just move around our resources as well. So right now, I would say about 30 plus.
And do they all report to you?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I,
Wow.
I
So,
still delegate a bit, but I make sure I have the control to, move them around and, work on the strategy on what they work on.
so tell me what one of the biggest leadership challenges that you face. I would imagine a lot of this is remote.
Yes, yes, it's all remote. I do go to the company, couple of times a year to talk with the clients and to attend any, conferences and leadership, meetings.
And what is one of your personal biggest leadership challenges with having that many people on your team and having to delegate and then also, lead through remote work, which is very different and very hard.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would say it has come naturally. I mean, and we have been working, for a long time remotely nowadays, right? And with computers, you don't need to be, face to face. It's really nice to be face to face, right? It gives you that human connection. But still, with the advent of computers and all the Zoom, Teams, you really don't need to be there face to face to get the job done, right? But having said that, yeah, of course, I agree there are challenges, right? When you're not interacting directly, when you don't have that human, connections to share a, bit of coffee or a tea and to talk directly, there are some challenges for sure. But you get used to it, right? And to answer your question on, what are the challenges of leading that many people, I would say communication is very, very key, right? When I started with this company at 2020, and this 30 plus programmers have not come at a time, right? This has been a team building exercise for about 4 years with various clients, right? And we also have a very important client that we partner with. And this has been a team building exercise over these 4 years where you identify the right team, and you also get to learn, right? You hire a programmer, you work with a programmer, and you get to understand, they may not be the right fit for the role. So you get to learn, and you definitely have some failures along the way. But the important thing is what you learn from that failure, right? How do you make sure that doesn't repeat, and how do you make sure you learn from it and apply it in the future, right? And again, with that many people, it's definitely challenging. But the communication to make sure they ask the right question, to make sure you put the right resources on the right project or on the right team to understand their skills, right? Because not everybody can be a leader, not everybody can be a technological expert, right? So you need to, work with your team to make sure what, your resources give you the best, and to use the best. It comes with time, and it comes. The more you work, the better you understand yourself. Even you have limitation. Even I have my limitations, right? So I need to know how to use the limited set of skills, right? Uh, to the best of the ability is really important.
How do you hold your team accountable?
You talk directly, Chad, right? And of course, when you give the task, you of course track through metrics. And like I said, communication is very, very critical. So you talk to them openly when they make mistakes. Of course, we have our internal team building exercise as well as we put our resources in front of the clients. So you let them learn through the internal mistakes. You talk openly, you talk directly. Hey, you know what? If they make mistakes, you openly communicate that to them. Hey, you have made this mistake. It's okay right now, but just make sure this doesn't get repeated forward, right? So that open communication is crucial, and that frequent communication, that frequent how do you say assessment is crucial, right? And then you evaluate to make sure they're on the right path, and this doesn't get repeated in a client in a call or in a client roles, right? So communication is crucial, and open collaboration is crucial.
So let me ask you a question. So when you think about what you've done to grow into your role, how does someone get fired? Like, what are some of the things that like someone should know up front? Like, you do this, and you're not going to be able to be on my team anymore. Like, do you have like non-negotiables for how you lead your team?
For sure, I would say again, working in a service-based industry, right? Um, our clients come first and foremost. So you need to, and again, it's also a fact of empathy, right? And you're working in a pharmaceutical industry. You are trying to create and get drugs to the market faster. You want to have that empathy. You want to have that customer-centric mindedness. When you work on these roles. So I try to imbibe them to my team. But when somebody is selfish or when somebody refuses to learn, that is where we are not something that could be non-negotiable, right? You want to make sure your programmers, people working for you, also have that same mentality, right? If that's not being carried forward, if that is not being understood, then that is a recipe for disaster and potential letting them go.
Have you always been good with computers?
Yeah, yeah, of course, both computers and making sure how do you say, to empathize with somebody, that's something that comes naturally to me.
And let me ask you a question. Before
Sure.
ChatGPT was released, before this AI era that we're kind of just engrossed in right now,
Mhm.
were you already
Mhm.
using language models? Were you already using a form of ChatGPT before it got launched to the public?
Not really, but again, this is a thing that has been how do you say uh, taken the world by surprise, isn't it? It has taken the world by storm. In the past few years, AI has been all the craze, isn't it? Uh, but in a regulated field like ours, we have to take things slowly. We have to make sure, again, you know, in a regulated field like ours, and where we work with a lot of patient-centric data, we have to be careful how we you know move the software to production, especially with things like AI. So we have been taking it slowly, and we have been working on internal models and internal capability, internal pipeline to make sure those are airtight before releasing them out for clients and into the wild, right? So we have been working internally, but to release them into production is another bit of story.
But how much has it changed your role, your job, your team? I mean, like everyone seems to be using ChatGPT now from everything from internal and external communications for writing prompts and out now we're seeing it for engineering and coding. It's literally kind of flipping the whole industry
Yeah.
upside down.
Absolutely. And that is where you have to be careful, right? Chad, in a regulated environment like ours, right? Again, with AI, I feel like it's it augments, right? It's a complementary tool for programmers rather than something that replaces the programmers, right? And things like ChatGPT and having all these tools, at hand, I feel like it's a thing that helps us to get our job done faster and to possibly automate repetitive tasks so that our programmers can focus on something more important and strategic. So that is where I feel like AI, helps our programmers, right? As a complementary, as an augmentative tool rather than something that replaces the entire industry.
So how are you using it today? Like how is it changing what you do?
Again, so prompts are really important, right? For example, before when you used to Google, right now we can just use the ChatGPT prompt to help us come with the right thought process, right? And also we have some AI initiatives in the pipeline where we are using the past mapping processes, feeding them into the AI large language model and helping us with automatic mapping. But again, the human intervention is still needed to make sure the mapping is reliable. But because when you think about AI, there are several how do you say, even things like bias, even things like hallucination, all these sort of things, right? And even the regulatory concern, privacy, that are really important where we cannot just, you know, have them be production ready from the get-goes, right? So we have to make sure we take it very cautious approach, right? Even with AI models, even with AI initiatives, the human in the loop is really important.
How much time do you spend time investing and training your team on things like prompt engineering and like how to use the AI? I mean, is that something you've had to build into how you manage and lead your team?
So I would say it comes again naturally, right? We don't, I mean, there are two ways. One, where we have the initiatives where we are collaborating with partners, including universities. My approach is really simple, right? Don't reinvent the wheel when things have been already invented, right? When research have been already put a lot, we don't need to reinvent the same wheel. So we collaborate with universities where we are in constant touch with university partners to help us out, creating this, initiatives, right? Work with our programmers on the initiative. So what we go out of our way to create this initiative pipeline where we are not just, lost in the loop. We constantly evolve. And second, so that again is an opportunity for our programmers to be involved, right? And second is where when we are working on our projects directly, that is where, I also work with my programmers to make sure, where they could use this ChatGPT prompts, this prompt engineering to get to the right solution, right? Where they may make mistake, I could, show them, hey, you know what, you can use this tool, right? You can, feed in your, input or text to make sure you get the right output. So there are, how do you say, stuffs where you go out in the open to reinvent yourself. And then there are also, stuff that where you're already working on to make sure you're talking with your team to, get the right output.
Right. So tell me, like when you see what's coming down the pipeline and you're playing with all this stuff and you kind of understand a little bit more than the average person who is just
Hmm.
using ChatGPT to do basic things.
Hmm.
And when you realize the power behind it, the capabilities, and yet you're limited, you work at a company, you have a team, you're busy, you've got clients. How much time do you spend on your own outside of work playing with this technology and thinking about like what you could go do and what you can go build? And do you do that? Do you play with that? Do you have ideas of things you want to do outside of what you do on a day-to-day basis?
No, again, that is where you need to spend your personal time as well, which is what I've been doing as well, right? Because if you work just during your office hours, you can't, you know, uh, have the new updated ideas, put to production, right? So you need to spend, I mean, which I've been doing, by the way, uh, you know, and again, I'm not the like how would I say, I'm not the God who knows all the answers, right? And with AI, things are constantly evolving, right? Even with computer science, things that were created 5 years ago or even 1 year ago would be outdated by the time the year progresses, right? For example, technology, even operating system, or even CPUs and GPUs, right? By the time you use it, a year later, there'll be some other new cool kid in the block, isn't it? So the same thing applies to AI, right? When you talk about AI, if you're not constantly looking out for what is there out in the world, you may be left, down the road, right? So that is where you need to constantly evolve. So from my end, I do spend considerable amount of time researching, and even I've been taking postgraduate certificate courses from Texas McComb University, and then you talk with other industry experts. So recently, I've been invited to be a stream co-chair of AI, machine learning, and large language model for a FUSE conference, where I will be reviewing papers, providing input, and be part of the selection panel of the papers that will be presenting for FUSE US Connect 2026. So you work through with various partners and various how do you say researchers, right? So you need to be constantly talking with them, getting a feel of it, outside of the work. So that is where you get to know what is going on. Plus, you're also able to provide your own input to lead this initiative and lead, for further technologies down the line.
How do I think I saw something in your profile that you like to mentor, you like to see that next generation of people coming through. How does someone coming out of college, someone who's interested in jumping in to AI, learning, researching, taking classes, how do they know which path to go down, knowing that something can be obsolete tomorrow? And they spend all this time figuring out how to do this and get a degree for that. And the next thing you know, you have a couple prompts that can do what you're spending years doing,
Mhm.
and plus you wasted so much time because you didn't need to do it. Like, how does someone navigate that terrain?
I would say, to be honest, after being in this industry for 14 plus years, to be honest, in any industry, right? Um, when you come out of college, I feel like it's not a wasted effort at all, right? More than learning about a tool, it is a thought process that counts, isn't it? So instead of and the beauty of it is that you know once you're learning about something, your brain gets evolved, right? And even if you're learning about something that may be outdated later, it's a thought process that is important, so that when for example, somebody learning at a university, right? um, More than just learning the tool, it's how certain things are doing certain way. If you learn that, that is more important. That's something that can be easily applied to a professional world, right? So when they work with us, are they able to think logically? Are they able to think analytically? Is what is much more important than knowing the tool or knowing a programming language. For example, if you learn Python, right? It's not just about the syntax. It's about how you apply the knowledge to programming, right? How you come from point A to point B. That is much more important. So once you know that, regardless of whether you know Python or Java, that knowledge is transferable. So that is what I'm looking for, and that's what I would encourage people who are coming out of university or people who are new to apply. Right? It's application. It's just the process how you go to point A to point B.
So I hear that. I think, my own experience of just learning how to build websites and how to build apps. And now you have companies like Replete, and you have all these companies that are launching, and now you literally are prompting in whatever you want and it's being built for you. And it's like they've taken the thought process out of the process. So I hear what you're saying with lots of things that can be transferable, your
Right.
skills, but it's a little scary because of how fast everything is moving, that you could spend time learning skills for something that are not applicable anymore. Because now I can literally go into a web builder, put in my prompt, and it builds me a website, and I don't have to know and I don't care however it got to where it got. Now, I would imagine in your world where you're talking about a lot more depth of the complexities of everything from your statistical programming, and I think just like you said in one of your things that you wrote to me, your operational excellence in healthcare. It's deep. It's not just make a website. It's not just make an app. I mean, they're talking about some heavy duty things. But again, as a young professional, where do I go? Am I going to university to do this? Can I just go online and take free classes? Like, where would you recommend and where would you mentor someone who's excited about getting in, but doesn't want to waste their time getting 2 years into something that could be obsolete when they come out?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Again, general purpose computer science degree is much more than enough, right? With major in mathematics or if they take some AI courses, I think that's more than enough, right? And when you think about it, the fact that you said, they can use a builder to create an app without knowing the process of what goes inside, right? And in our industry, that's not how it works. We have to be able to reproduce things, right? And it's very highly regulated. We need to show the code behind something, right? It's not just a black box solution. So that is where I would say knowing the process behind is much more important than creating the tool itself. So that's what I would say, a young professional to learn, or a young university graduate to learn the process, and not to be worried too much about the solution, that comes out of it, right?
Interesting, because it's changing so fast, and it's hard for a young professional to have any clue. So you like to mentor. I recently came across these hackathons. Tell me
Mhm.
first off what a hackathon is, just for our audience who has no clue what it is.
Yeah, hackathon is basically, what you have. So, for example, a university, graduate student, right? They're going through the 4-year process or a 2-year process, right? A hackathon is an amazing way of, applying what you have learned to create a product, right? Uh, and there will be many different groups of, folks who will be creating a product, and you are just evaluating them, grading them, and providing encouragement and trying to see, what they have built. So it's a rewarding process for both the, person who judges and the person who creates. And I feel like it's a collaborative environment, right? And that is where I feel like it's a bridge between yeah, university, course to a real world, right? Where you are creating a product and you are getting real world feedback from industry experts. So that's what I would say a hackathon is.
Do you run hackathons? I mean, do you try to recruit people using those to see people's creativity and how good they are, what their
Uh,
skills?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have thought about it, and that's something that is in our pipeline. But I've attended a few hackathons as a judge, and I evaluated, the products of the students. But that's something that is in our, thought process as well as the future, where we will be, potentially recruiting candidates based on, what they're able to create.
So let me put you on the spot. Let me ask you, if you are going to go into a hackathon and you
Mhm.
are being prompted to say, look, build something creative. We want to see your skills, use your creativity and your skills, merge those together and build something great. Where would you focus? What would you do? Like what would you have fun building if you could just build anything you want to try to prove your skills?
Yeah, again, that is where I would, say something like, again, our human mind progresses, right? When I was 14 years ago as a university graduate versus what I am now, it's drastically different, isn't it? Because you have all these experiences, working with industry folks, working with real world products rather than learning about concepts. So if I could go back in time with all this I have gained right now, so this domain knowledge is important. That's one key thing I would say, right? Where do you want to work, right? It's not just about, I mean, learning concepts are important, which is what I told you, right? Learning that how things are working is important. But also, where would you want to apply the skills? That's also important, right? Because you also need to know the domain knowledge. It's not just about learning computers. It's not just about learning about AI, right? It's not about just about learning about models. But where are you applying all this? What is the problem that you're trying to solve, right? So you need to know what problem are you trying to solve, and you need to have a problem that's closer to your heart, a problem that um, makes you excited. So first of all, understand what is the problem, and then you can apply all the skills that you have learned to tackle that problem or create a solution for that problem. So that is really important, and that's something that you get to know once you're in the industry for a while, right? That would come naturally to you to identify a problem, to see where the gap exists for our customers or clients, to see where the pain point is, right, to our customers and clients, right, and to find a solution to that pain point as a product.
Can you have one that you're working on now or that you would love to work on if you had a lot more time, like a problem that you feel like is just it's a pain point that you would love to solve that you could if you either had enough time, or again, are you currently working on one that you're passionate about?
And that's again where all this initiative comes in, right? Which I was talking about recently, right? Again, in a real world scenario, you don't have the luxury to create a product as a test bed without a proper use case or application, right? So we are right now working on several initiatives, and some of these are AI based as well, and some are just technology based, not just AI. So we have several in the pipeline where these came out as a result of the pain points, right? And again, a regulated field, and again, in the pharmaceutical phase, we want to create these reports and outputs, these data sets as soon as possible, because the more you delay, the more you're delaying, the product that can be applied for a patient, right? You're basically dealing with a human life, right? You want all these drugs to come out as fast as possible, as efficient as possible, and as time reduce and cost effective as possible.
How many projects is your team currently working on right now?
There are multiple dozens of projects. We work with several clients, and with each client we have several studies, and each of those studies have several uh, milestones. So I could say there are even hundreds of projects that's ongoing right now.
And you're overseeing all of that?
At a given point, I would be overseeing about I would say 20, 30, about 40 projects. No, not hundreds. Of course, we have other leaders as well in our companies. But I
Okay,
would say around 30 to 40.
so talk to me about balance. Talk to me about your workload. How are you able to work on the things that you're passionate about when you have to oversee 30 different projects and then kind of also answer, your personal time? How many hours a week do you work? I mean, what can someone expect to be in your role and what does life look like on a daily basis?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, I I don't exactly have a number on how many hours I work, but I would guess it would be around 50 to 60 per week, or even more depending upon the time of the year, right? If there are projects that are going to be in a regulatory approval space. But having said that, yeah, I mean, delegation is really important, right? That is where, identifying the 30 resources, of course, I break them into chunks, right? Who are of that level where they can lead and who are of the level where they can manage their own studies. Um, and then I go into, status calls to make sure they are on track. And then there are, so you basically need to prioritize, right? You need to make sure what are priority one, what are priority two, priority three. Priority one would be something that you need to jump on immediately, right? That are very high visibility, that are closer to FDA approval or FDA submission. And then you take special interest in them, right? You work directly with our clients, you directly manage them, you directly make sure the timeline is on track, you directly strategize them, right? And then there are, of course, priority, let's say three or four, right, where they're just starting out. Then you'd be, um, you know, uh, tempted to, send it to a person who wants to learn. But of course, you don't want to make mistake. But still, you have that luxury to, take them in little slowly, right? Not as rushed as possible. So again, that is where priority important of the 30 or 40 projects. Not all of them would be at a stage where they're at FD approval stage, right? Of those 30 or 40, only three or four would be really high priority and highly critical. And I focus my energy on those. And then there will be 10 which are in the middle stage where you just need to focus once a week or, whenever the milestone comes. And then there are some that are just in the starting phase where you have the opportunity to let your team members, learn and progress from that.
So all these people are reporting back up to you. Who are you reporting to in your company?
I'm reporting to a president and founder of our company, Tim Southwick. Very, very cool guy. Someone who I learned a lot, from. So yeah, love to work with him. Again, he's very down to earth, very focused, and very calm. Right? That's something that you want to imbibe. So something that I learned from Tim every single day.
And how do you manage expectations? I mean, one thing I know about building software and being in that world is that usually it doesn't happen as fast as you want it to happen.
True, for
there's
sure,
always there's always a
for
lot of
sure.
things that happen. So my question is how good are you at predicting that time gap of start to finish? And do you have sprints that you run? Are you using software? Has AI changed that whole? Do you have a project manager? How are you doing things? Are you managing that process, or do you have a full-time employee who manages and makes sure the projects are moving forward?
So we have a project manager, and what the beauty in our industry, right, compared to a traditional software industry, which I've heard, where it takes several months or even years down the line to create a finished product. In our case, we have daily deliverables. Sometimes, you know, that's a difference in a pharmaceutical world where we provide statistical reports. We have to be, for example, an adverse event that has to be reported daily, right? Because we can't have a drug, creating adverse reaction and people still continuing to use it, right? So we have daily milestones, we have even weekly deliverables, even monthly deliverables. So in our world, we have deliverables that are quite often rather than in a traditional software where you create a software and months or years down the line where you send to your client, right? We interact with our clients uh, every weekly, and even sometimes, some of my most high profile clients, I IM them every single day, right? to keep them in the loop. And we do have dedicated project managers who also make sure the timeline is on track.
It's interesting.
But ours is again slightly different world where we are in a constant rush. We
Right.
can't wait for months and years, to talk. So things progress very rapidly at a rapid pace.
Right. I would imagine, and I remember reading something about you that you have a lot of that predictive analytics, right? So a lot of this stuff, whether you're using technology or the experience or your trends or whatever it is. But I'm more curious to know, like, what kind of a prediction do you have for where things are going in this industry, whether it be pharmaceutical or just using AI in general in business with engineers and teams like yours that are growing? Are they growing? Are they shrinking? I mean, we talk about AI not replacing people, enhancing people. But at the
Exactly.
end, like what I see in my business and all the people I get to interview, I see it replacing lots of people. I also see it enhancing a lot of people's jobs, but it
Absolutely.
is replacing a lot. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the maybe unknowns, things that you don't hear in the social media and what's kind of the buzz of what's going on, but like, what do you predict? What can you see? I mean, not guaranteeing anything, but what major changes can you see coming down the pipeline that the average person just doesn't see coming yet?
Yeah, I would say again, our industry has grown as well, right? In the last few years, again, with the advent of technology. I mean, initially, we used to work in a company, all the codes would be closed source. Again, it's a very highly competitive environment, right? We need to also you need to get the drug to the market as fast as possible because again, people are suffering, right? You want to make sure you end
Right.
the suffering as quickly as possible, right? In the last few years, we have supported several of our clients with multiple FDA approvals. In 2022, we helped one of our clients get through a gene therapy, rare disease. It was a very rare blood disorder, so that was very how do you say inspiring for us to get our client through the cross line. And even recently, last year, we had a client. We helped a client submit a NDA submission for a rare metabolic disorder. And even as early as 2 weeks ago, we had a client come to us and say, "Hey, you know what? We got an FDA approval, and thank you for helping us with this, ovarian cancer drug, right?" So this is a very high profile work that we do, right? Especially with drugs, because people get sick, right? And this is not an industry that's going to go away, right? People always get sick, and we need to make sure people are taken care of. But having said that, recently we have seen this rush in open source initiative, right? In our world, SAS is the king, right? Statistical analysis system. And that's a closed source environment, right? But we get a very good support from SAS. But having said that, recently there is also this up boom in open source technology like R, like Python. Of course, when you say AI, natural language processing, and all this augmented AI, Python is the king, isn't it? So there is this boom in collaboration, right, with various pharmaceutical companies and contract research organization in working collaboratively, right, to create this software, to create these programs, to create this automation, right? With Python, and this we have these various events like Fuse, Pharmasug, where we collaborate and talk about novel automation initiative, novel programming approaches that we take, right? And we write papers about it. So collaboration is key, and I don't know about other industries, but I get your point that AI may be replacing. But in our case, this collaboration, this open source technology is augmenting, right? It helps us get to stuff faster, and which is very, very critical. And that's not going to replace the jobs because these programmers that are coming up the ladder, they always have something else to do. They always have some other critical things to think about because domain knowledge doesn't come, I mean, AI may have ideas about the domain knowledge, but you still need to take decisions, and humans are really important to take the decisions, right? And we can't work in a black box like other fields. So whatever we do must be reproducible, right? So when FDA is looking at our data, if they are using the programs, it needs to create the same output again and again and again, right? If they are a constant set of data is fed, right? We can't be biased. We can't have hallucination, derailing our products, right? Because again, we are dealing with lives here, right? If you're using AI and you just, hey, you know what, we are just using AI to create this report for you, and if that fails, we don't want somebody to die about, on it, right? So it's a matter of life and death, right? Again, so in this industry, I feel like AI is really crucial. It helps, speed up the process, But again, it's a augmentation, it's a complementary skill. So I don't see any risk in job. I just see that we are evolving with it, right? Anything that was repetitive, we are giving it to the AI, and we are using that time to create more strategic solution. That time will be better utilized to talk to your partners, to talk to your clients on improving the automation, or on improving any other functional gaps or operational gaps. So I see it as a win-win, in our industry, Chad.
Why have we not seen blockchain more integrated into something like the pharmaceutical industry? Or maybe it has and I'm not aware of it, but like it just seems to me that blockchain solves a major problem for communication and for history and for everything from trends to being accurate with medications, for example, is such a big one. Like people go to doctors and they have no clue what the history is unless they go into a portal, and the portal doesn't have, but blockchain just does everything, and it just seems to make so much sense. And maybe I don't know as much about it as it offers. But do you see it? Is it already being implemented? Is it something that's going to be coming in the future? Like, is that something that you're even tapped into?
I mean, we have been speaking about blockchains, but again, not something that I have put my thought process in a lot. But there are some upcoming, initiatives and papers on blockchain technology as well. But I'm not aware of anything that is being used in our biometric space. But I could see, I've heard a lot about AI, even helping the drug discovery process, where things may have taken, several years if we use the traditional process. That has been reduced by, now to a matter of, couple of days or even months. So I could see that progress, but again, it's a slow progress. Again, with the fact that ours is a regulated industry, right? Anything that we do has to go through FDA approval and has to go through, uh, you know, regulations being okay with it, right? So it takes time in our industry. In our industry, we can't be just that fast with it, right? Again, we are dealing with patients, right? So we have to take it, the quality, and how do you say? We have to get the acceptance of the regulated space as well.
Interesting. All right, good. Well, listen, let me ask you this last question. If you
Sure.
if you and I are having a conversation a year from now and we're looking back at the past 12 months, what has to happen for you personally and professionally for you to feel like you're happy with the progress that you've made?
Yeah, I mean, I could already see that. I mean, few years down the line, if you could see the collaboration between different pharmaceutical industries were very minimal, right? And nowadays, you're seeing all these forums, where, like I just mentioned about this Fuse Pharma, and there are several working groups, right, where people collaborate, even from several competing pharmaceutical companies. Of course, they don't share the data because data privacy is extremely critical, right?
Right.
But having said that, you can share about your pain points, you can share about the technological space and all those things. You can work to create a common open source technology. And we are also having several initiatives on QC processes. We are having this working group on Git, this version control or whatnot, right? So I feel like, there are progresses, and we are coming up with new methods of, um, you know, uh, identifying gaps and improving the gaps. And also FDA has come with some guidance document on the use of AI, right? So there are more collaborations in process. So I would say 12 years later, when we speak, if you are able to get a better, picture, and if you're able to talk to the FDA to understand their view on, the use of AI and whatnot, and if we see, let's say, in the biometric space, some more initiatives even from our pipeline, uh, get to the fruition, right, where our clients are using it, successfully. That is where I would feel like the progress has been made, right? But again, it's as long as we make progress, and as long as we are able to save space, save both money and time, I'd be really happy, if we could achieve that, right? I mean, because day by day we have to make sure that that efficiency is being shown.
100%. It's great. Well, listen, I appreciate talking to you and an opportunity to kind of pick your brain about what you think about all the good stuff that's happening. And I wish you and your team nothing but success with all the initiatives that you guys are doing, especially in the healthcare industry, which is pretty important for us. And again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate all your thoughtful questions. I hope we could talk again in the future. Thank you so much for it.
Yeah. Okay. Give me one
All right.
second.